So let me explain why is it that we need God. And as people become self-sufficient, as people become stronger, as they become more proud of themselves, as they become arrogant, they feel less of a need to depend on Allah. Well, the truth is, no matter how rich or how poor you are, you still need Allah. And there is not anyone on the planet who is less of a slave of Allah than anyone else, or is less in need of Allah than anyone else. So we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for certain reasons. But as people, as I said, when people are weak, and that's why historically you find the followers of prophets were of the first people, that were usually of the poor, and they would be the first ones to follow the prophet. And as people become more arrogant, they feel, well, I don't need to worship God, or what do I need Him for? Well, He's the one who gives you everything that you have. And the need for God goes back to a number of things. First of all, a lot of people say things like, you know, I believe that there is a God, but I don't believe in organized religion. I don't know if that means they would like to believe in a disorganized religion, but I don't believe in organized religion. There is a God. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to be good. And if I'm good, God will take me to paradise. The question is, ladies and gentlemen, the question is, what is good? What is good? Who determines what is good and who defines what is good? And I'll tell you from personal experience, I used to live for 2 years in a country in Central Africa. My father was stationed there, and a country which will remain unnamed. In that country, there was nothing wrong with stealing. It was not reprehensible, and it was not punishable by law. There's nothing wrong with stealing whatsoever. So if you caught someone stealing in your home, it was no embarrassment, there was nothing wrong with it. If you wanted him to be punished for that, you had to pay the police to take him to jail. Even though he stole from you. You caught him wearing your suit, and he had the fistfuls of your cash and your wife's jewelry and everything, but nothing was wrong with stealing in that society. And I'll tell you, one time, we were in the marketplace, I was with the chauffeur, and suddenly he started looking for his wallet. Someone had just stolen it, or there was a pickpocket in the vicinity. So he started looking for his wallet, and then he found it in the hand of the pickpocket. So he takes it from the pickpocket as he's smiling. It was kind of like, you. He takes the wallet from him, and the pickpocket was like, you got me. Not a problem. And everybody else was looking at this, they were observing this incident, and everybody was laughing. Like, yeah, he tried it, but he got caught. And I was the only one looking and staring at everybody. Are these people out of their mind? Are they crazy? What's funny about this? But nothing is wrong with stealing in that country. So much so that their president, he said in one of his speeches, he said, we don't steal, we borrow, but we just forget to ask permission. The president saying this in a speech. And you have to pay the police to take the person to jail, and you have to bring them a meal every day in jail. So you have to cook. What are you doing? I'm cooking up a stew for the poor guy that was stealing, and you have to drive to the jail every day and give him the meal. Why? Because in that society, they determine that there's nothing wrong with stealing. By the way, one time I explained this story in a community that was full of people from various African nations, and during the break, every different person would pull me, were you speaking about my country? Because it turned out to be a number of African countries that have the same exact thing, where there's nothing wrong with stealing, it's not reprehensible, it's not punishable by law. So then what do we see in this example? We see a society, a given society, they decided on a certain, they took a certain issue or a certain value, and they said this is acceptable for the purposes of our community. One thing you kind of find to be universal is that universally, for the most part, human life is considered to be sacred. For the most part, wherever you go, you don't find anywhere where they consider killing a human being is the same as stepping on an ant, for example. So human life is sacred, but beyond that, it's a free-for-all. You find certain people, they take this certain value, and it's acceptable to them. And that thing is not acceptable to them. So in certain ancient cultures, pedophilia was okay, it was acceptable. There was nothing wrong with it. So if you lived in that society, you could be a good person and a part-time pedophile, but by your definition, you're a good person. And I give examples closer to home, where, for example, now, there are certain things in society, and at least I can speak for the United States, so that way I stay safe with the Canadians. In the United States, there are certain things that are not acceptable that have become replaced with euphemisms, and they've been given a new definition and have become acceptable. So, for example, you don't find young people in the States saying, well, I fornicated last night. They don't say that. They give a euphemism in its place. They make it sound good. They make it sound innocent. So what happens? We made love. So it's like we made hearts and Hallmark cards with little music, and we just passed out love, you know. Very innocent, very nice. Or we slept together. Does it get any more innocent than that? She was over there, she slept, and I slept over here, and I dreamt of bunnies and bears. And it sounds so nice, but it's a euphemism. So now in society, that kind of thing is considered, you know, alright. Even certain things that are still frowned upon, we still have a nicer name for them. Like nobody says, you know, you committed adultery. You have an affair. It's an affair. It's still bad, but it's an affair. It's not adultery. You're not an adulterer. It's an affair, you know. On the side, you know. So, every society will pick certain things and say, well, this is good, and this is acceptable. So that means you can't have human beings by themselves to decide, I'm going to be a good person as long as I'm good, then God will take care of me. Because if you're in that African country where I used to live, you can be a very good person and the best crook in the neighborhood. But you might do something that you think is good, but it's actually reprehensible or horrendous in the sight of Allah. And that's why human beings need Allah to tell them right from wrong. Need Allah to tell us about these things. Because on our own, we can't come to an agreement, and we can't really determine what is good and what is bad beyond the things that are, for the most part, universal.
أفغير دين الله يبغون وله أسلم من في السماوات أفغير دين الله يبغون وله أسلم من في السماوات والأرض طوعا وكرها وإليه يرجعون قل آمنا بالله وما أنزل علينا وما أنزل على إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى والنبيون من ربهم لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون ومن يبتغ غير الإسلام دينا فلن يقبل منه وهو في الآخرة من الخاسرين كيف يهدي الله قوما كفروا بعد إيمانهم وشهدوا أن الرسول حق وجاءهم البينات والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين أولئك جزاؤهم أن عليهم لعنة الله رحمة الله والملائكة والناس أجمعين خالدين فيها لا يخفف عنهم العذاب ولا هم ينظرون إلا الذين تابوا من بعد ذلك وأصلحوا فإن الله غفور رحيم.